What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in today. I am thrilled to be joined by Melissa Jacobs of The Football Girl and contributor to The Guardian. Melissa, thank you so much for joining me today. Are you ready to talk some 49ers?
I'm always ready to talk 49ers. I mean, come on.
That's awesome. Great answer. Melissa, obviously, you are of The Football Girl. You started the website, the podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey and any adversities you had to face, if any, getting that up and off the ground?
Yeah. Oh, there's definitely adversities. Anyone starting any media venture understands that. But yeah, so I actually started my career in the Bay Area at KNBR, the preeminent sports station. And I was a radio producer. I worked for, I produced the Razor and Mr. T show. And then I was kind of, I guess, recruited by ESPN Radio because I had worked a lot. We were one of their biggest affiliates. So I worked with their executives there. So then I moved to Bristol, Connecticut, and then basically, had the national radio career, crafted a job for TV and myself, for myself, where I was basically working on, as a producer level job at NFL Live, Sports Center. It was talent producer was the title of it because I sort of had pitched it as newspaper writers and media people, we're all great, but what if we get the newsmakers? Let's bring people on and make our own news. So that just became a thing. And through that, I was booking a lot. So I was working with a lot of NFL people, the agents and players and teams, PR, etc. And I always just loved football. It's always been, since I was a kid. I've been playing fantasy. I don't even know if any girls were playing fantasy when I started. I'm sure there were, and shout out to all of us. But and then I was in Bristol, Connecticut, and I just didn't want to be there forever. I was sort of in this track of okay, I'm on this management path and it's great, but my life is going to be in Bristol. Am I ever going to, I didn't date people I worked with. Sorry, I'm kind of going off on tangents here, but if I stay here, I'm just going to be cool. I'll be an ESPN executive, without anything else going on in my life. So in any event, I got entrepreneurial and, this was about a decade ago, and the NFL is still not great at marketing to women. They were especially not great a decade ago. Everything was pink. Everything was, 101. Everything was we're going to box them into this category and assume they're all beginners and basically talk to them in a condescending fashion. So I just decided to create The Football Girl. It was actually going to be a book originally, but then I decided to turn it into a website. And I just kind of wanted to speak to women of all different levels, but also include content, covering fantasy, talking to newsmakers, something that any football fan could really but something that didn't exclude women, because so much media out there then, and even now, does that.
That's true. I mean, I started the 49ers Hive account back in 2017, and, slowly but surely, more women started following and interacting with me, and they're definitely just as knowledgeable and interested in football as men. And for some reason, all these kind of bigger media companies and conglomerates don't seem to cater to them. It's always, like you said, pink football shirts, or cute little cutesy touchdown slogans. And it's just they want football just as much as men do. And for some reason, that hasn't really seemed to grasp with them. But I mean, The Football Girl is huge. It's awesome. I've had people come up to me and, send articles or whatever the case is, and they love it. I mean, I love it myself. I check it out, and it's a great website. So congratulations on getting that off the ground, because that's huge. And definitely carving out a market that definitely needed to be there, because it was not there previously.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Since it's been launched, and not that these two things are related at all, but just seeing, maybe we'll talk about this in this conversation, but seeing just the growth of women in football itself, it's just been really cool to sort of parallel that and have so many opportunities to spotlight so many of the women coaches and executives that have sort of come to rise in the last few years.
Yeah, that's actually my next question. That's perfect. The 49ers do have, Katie Sowers on the coaching staff, and she got a lot of media attention going into the Super Bowl. And, there's a handful of other women coaches, at different levels throughout the NFL Do you think kind of the mindset of coaches needing to be predominantly male is changing?
Well, it's helping for sure. I mean, it's really interesting because Sam Rappaport, who was a marketing executive, she played women's tackle football as a quarterback in Canada, but also worked for the NFL. I mean, she basically pitched this thing to Roger Goodell that was like, I'm going to create a pipeline for women. Because there's, the coaching pipelines. Kyle Shanahan is amazing, but like nepotism is a big part of it. Needing to have played in the NFL, just being in that like boys club. So she created this pipeline where she's getting qualified women, interfacing with NFL coaches, NFL GMs, and that's where most of these jobs have been born. So it's just so fascinating to me because the NFL, especially when it's come to issues pertaining to women, domestic violence and whatnot, has been so reactive. Like this terrible thing happened, they didn't do anything about it. Everybody, threw up, fire, then they react. But here they've actually decided that this was something for whatever reason. Maybe it's because female fans make up almost 50% of their audience, but have helped make this happen. And there are, coaches like Bruce Arians. I talked to him at the Combine right before he hired 2 female coaches, and he's like, why would I choose from like 50% of the people out there like that? Why? I'm looking for competitive advantages here, and just even bringing diversity in the staff, women, more minorities, people of color, whatever, that you're just representing your fan base, your players, so I do feel that the NFL is in a really good place in that regard, and that it's just going to continue to grow.
Yeah, that's always been the biggest thing for me is like, why would you want to limit your opportunities of having somebody that could positively impact your team, whether it's coaching or medical staff, whatever the case may be, split it right in half and just automatically cut out half of the opportunity and the selection. So it would just make sense to just open it up, have equal opportunity for everybody, and let the best person win, not necessarily just man. Now, Melissa, I want to kind of shift over to the 49ers a little bit more specifically. Obviously, the biggest news was George Kittle finally getting paid. He got that 5-year, $75 million extension. After that's all settled and in the bag, do you think 49ers are ready to run it back and bring home the trophy this time? I
mean, I feel like Patrick Mahomes being in the league makes that basically what we saw in the Super Bowl. That always, that still simmers despite all the things in the world that have happened since. It's like, man, if we just somehow 49ers don't face Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, that would be helpful. There hasn't been too much turnover. I'm quite concerned about the loss of DeForest Buckner choosing to pay Armstead. I think how Javon Kinlaw develops, which we just don't really know that much of yet. We just hear positive things from the locker room. Can he be a replacement? Can he be another Nick Bosa, an enforcer? That's going to be a huge deal. But I think, the fact that they didn't lose Robert Saleh was huge. I mean, he's just, fortified that defense. He gets all, everyone playing to their max talent. I mean, I definitely fear that this might be his last year, but there's just not enough turnover to say that the 49ers would have any massive drop at this point.
Yeah, usually after a team makes it or wins the Super Bowl, both teams, the other 30 teams, it's a copycat league, they're going to be poaching players, coaches, whatever the case may be. The 49ers seem to have kind of come out of this unscathed, minus 2 key losses, which they essentially were okay with. I mean, they let Emmanuel Sanders walk, and then they made the choice to trade DeForest Buckner. So they obviously feel comfortable going into it. And I certainly hope they don't have to face Patrick Mahomes again, because last season they were so close twice, and the Chiefs just had to come back in the playoffs. But that's the nature of the sport. What is a storyline that you are keeping an eye on closely, whether it be through training camp or throughout the season?
Well, I mean, obviously COVID and whether the season's going to happen. I think that's the easy answer. But even watching, shots of reporters being at training camp, I'm like, oh, they're a little close to each other. They're not wearing masks. I mean, I hate thinking about that, but it's so omnipresent right now. Are they basically how are their COVID protocols compared to other teams? Because I don't know if you watch Hard Knocks, but that's what Anthony Lynn was saying. He's like, really the team that doesn't try to sneak like some random woman into the team hotel wearing a jersey, they're probably going to have more of an advantage. That was Seahawks, of course. As 49er fans will be quasi happy to hear, I guess. But yeah, I'm curious what's going to happen in the wide receiver ranks. Will Brandon Ayuk turn out to be, a stud? I know they said that was the top receiver on their board with this really rich receiver class, which I found to be really interesting. Little concerned about Deebo Samuel, obviously, at the moment with his injury, but if his timetable is okay, because that has been an area of weakness, and it really was until Emmanuel Sanders got there last year. So that's a concern. Will Raheem Mostert can he repeat what again the running back room? How's that all? I mean, Shanahan is such a wizard with the running game. How's that all going to piece together? And I feel like the loss of Matt Breida is potentially pretty large. And then again, Javon Kinlaw and how he's going to pan out, especially with this just really weird, shortened preseason, and that's so hard. And when those two, I would say Javon Kinlaw and Brandon Ayuk are incredibly important almost from the get-go. So for them to have this just like weird environment to get indoctrinated in the NFL, just how the 49ers coaching staff has compensated for that, is basically what I'm keeping an eye on. West.
Yeah, I recently spoke to Connor Rogers of Bleacher Report and Stick to Football, and he kind of suggested having regional divisions. The NFL's already came out and pretty much said we're not doing a bubble. We're going to proceed pretty much as normal with the schedule. And I think that would actually be a pretty good idea. I mean, it's not too late to kind of shift the schedules around and have these teams just not have to stay in a hotel. I mean, you could hop on a bus and the 49ers could play the Chargers or the Rams, and just I feel like this year's not normal. Nothing's normal ever anymore. So it would be kind of smart to implement some more safety protocols just to keep the players safe, because if not, that's the ultimate product at the end of the day is football. But you got to keep these players and coaches safe in order to have that product. So it's just tricky, but a lot of things to keep an eye on. And those are definitely some good ones that you touched on. Mm-hmm. You recently had the 49ers ranked number 3 overall in your power rankings. 2 questions for you. What do you need to see for them to move up? And would it be possible for them to go number 1 over Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, or is that just kind of a non-starter right now?
I mean, it's hard to think of them with Mahomes being like even 80% of the Mahomes that we're used to. But yeah, I think it's really boils down, and obviously this could be your storylines to watch thing, but Jim, how Garoppolo progresses. I think all 49er people are keeping a keen eye on that. And, the Super Bowl loss was tough. It's just hard. I think everybody was spoiled because of that first season when they traded for him, and it was just such a revelation. And then last season was kind of okay, good, B plus maybe, but it feels like there were some parts where Kyle Shanahan was kind of like scheming to minimize his deficiencies. So how he grows is his smarter decisions. And then does he have, do these weapons pan out for him? Obviously he has George Kittle, who's one of the best weapons in football, but everyone else is the team going to have had enough of even emulating a normal training camp to actually produce and connect in the way that you need to with a few new parts.
Yeah, it's it's tricky, but I think Jimmy Garoppolo, I agree with you totally. Kyle Shanahan kind of, it seemed like he didn't really trust him fully last season.
Yeah.
He would kind of keep him on a short leash. And once he had a comfortable lead, he kind of like metaphorically said, all right, I'm not letting you lose this for me. Specifically in that championship game, he went out of his way to not let Jimmy mess anything up. So I would love to see him have a little bit of a longer leash and trust him a little bit more, now that he has a full season under his belt. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Now, Melissa, we're going to be entering our rapid fire section. You can answer these with as many or as little words as you'd like. First question, George Kittle or Travis Kelce?
George Kittle, see the beast mode play against the Saints last year. That's why.
Great answer. Over or under for Jimmy Garoppolo, 4,500 passing yards?
Oh, definitely under. I can give reasons if you want, but
that's okay. I trust you.
See him as a 4,500 plus guy at this point.
Fair enough. Okay, this is a little more wordy, maybe. Best advice for any aspiring sports journalists?
Okay. Be really aggressive and don't get discouraged. Like, when I say be aggressive, I mean shoot your shot. Like, you think you're at this level, shoot your shot and go a level above that, and reach out to people, even if they're not hiring, and ask them to mentor you. And then, you're obviously in the stratosphere when something becomes available. Ask someone to mentor you, show them you're smart, learn from them, and just don't get discouraged, because this business, especially now with just mass layoffs, is in a pretty dire state. But there are jobs, there are, opportunities, and just, it might take a while depending on your skill set, but just keep grinding. I know that's super generic, but getting, especially now, there's a lot of out of work people that are really high level, like, award-winning journalists, writers, and TV people that have probably some time on their hands. Reach out to them, and I don't know, maybe you guys will start a business together, or maybe they'll put you in touch with someone that they know, and you never know what will happen. But just, I would say, just be okay not going through sort of the traditional channels. Like, I'm going to get this internship, it's going to develop into this job, and I'm going to be able to sustain it for 10 years. Be flexible.
Great advice. I love that. Last question for you. How many holes does a straw have?
1. Is that right?
I don't think there's a right answer to this, but if I had to guess, I would say 1 as well.
You would say it's wrong? You think it's 2?
No, I would say 1 as well.
Oh, 1 is 12, because it's only, there's 2 entries, but are the holes the entry points, or is I guess maybe it's 2, right? Because
that's true, maybe, yeah.
Like, if a squirrel was like burrowing and had 1 entry point here and 1 entry point here, and they ended up in the same place, is that all 1 hole? Oh my gosh. I've been thinking about this all night.
All right, we'll leave that up for debate, interpretation, however you guys want to see it. Guys, make sure you go and follow Melissa Jacobs on Twitter. Her handle is below on the screen. And make sure you check out the Football Girl podcast, available on all platforms. Melissa, thank you so much for joining me. I had a blast talking to you, and I look forward to having you on again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Zach. That was fun.
All right, take care.
You too.